Okay, as you can see, today we're going to talk about dairy judging, specifically note taking. So this is during the class, while you're evaluating it, different things that you notice about the animals that you're going to need to have for your oral readings. There's a couple different methods that you can use. Typically, we're going to number our page potentially a 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of a quadrant system, and this is all about number 1, animal number 2, animal number 3, and animal number 4, and we're going to write down things that we notice, and it doesn't necessarily have to be all positive, all negative, in any particular order. We're just going to write the important stuff that we see, and so maybe we write the teat placement. Okay, now just like that, teat placement can be a good or a bad thing. And so instead of writing a full sentence like, I believe number 1 had poor teat placement, I might just make a little note, maybe a minus sign, if she had poor teat placement. Or number 4 might have had teat placement that was the best in the class, and I put a plus there. We all have different abilities to comprehend our own notes. So what you put in these notes is going to be very much up to you. But our goal is going to be to get all animals evaluated by looking at our notes. And if we don't have any notes, then we probably haven't looked at that animal enough to really have honestly placed her in the right place. So we may look here, top line might be very, very positive, very strong, straight, level. Maybe feet and legs. Now because feet and legs maybe are negative, we might want to write what was bad about those. And so, toed out, or sickle hawk, something that we could talk about later. Why do we not like that? Smooth, let's go up here, smooth foreudder. You'll see if you do some research, or you'll come up with your own. For like a foreudder attachment, you might put F/U for foreudder. Rear udder maybe is rear udder high/wide rear udder. H/W for high and wide. RW for rear udder. Those are some things that you can abbreviate. When you look at somebody else's notes, it may not make much sense to you. When somebody else looked at your notes, might not make much sense to them. That's not that important, as long as you can look at these animals and describe them. Other things, obvious markings, color. You know, if you're looking at a Holstein, they're all going to have a little black and a little white. But if one's predominantly white, meaning it's only got a few, that might be a question in the class. Which of the 4 cows were white? And you're thinking, well, all of them had white on, they're Holsteins. But which one was predominantly white? Which one was the most black? That could be one of them as well. Those are things that you might notice. Other note-taking things. Which one had an ear tag? Which one had a bobtail? Those are things that you can put in your reasons or in your questions that may help your reason sound a little bit better. An alternative. Well, before we do the alternative, the other thing that needs to make sure is in your notes is how you're placing them. So maybe you're going to place them 4, 1, 2, 3, for example. Maybe that's your official placing. I like to write somewhere, your placing. I might write my placings, and I might write officials. I don't know the officials yet, but I'm going to hang on to my notes until the end of all the judging is done, and the official says, okay, in class number 1, this should end up on your notes too, what class number. Maybe they're 3-year-old Holsteins, okay? That needs to show up there as well. I have my placings. They say we placed them 4, 1, 3, 2, and 4, 1, 3, 2, and they're going to give you cuts as well, and maybe they gave it cuts of 2, 4, and 2, so we got a 48. We can determine that. You don't have to worry about your score. They'll calculate it for you.
If you have any cooking stuff, can you bring it to the boardroom?
So the alternative...
My legs hurt from double soccer, so if you could bring it to the boardroom, I need your
we showed you the kind of the crosshairs there, the quadrant. The other thing that you can do, always make sure you have a title of the class, number 1, Holstein, 3-year-olds. We're going to always make sure we have a place for my placings, official, maybe OP if you want, maybe the cuts. We have those there so we don't forget to put them. Because when we give reasons on these, we need to know how we placed them. We're going to mark our card, but then we also need to know potentially our placings. Rather than a quadrant system, you could just go number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Okay? Number 4. And in our next video, we're going to talk a little bit about how many positives we need and how many negatives we need. And so keep in mind that's going to affect your notes. When we look back at our notes, if we don't have anything about that number 1 animal or number 2 animal, we're going to have a hard time giving reasons about her. So we need to make sure that we take notes. In dairy judging, most of your notes are going to be related to mammary, because that's 40% of what you're judging these cattle based on. Structure, feet and legs, those are easier to notice sometimes, and so those will be talking points as well. Dairy character will also be included in there. So that's your note taking.